Alright guys, it's time to start the finishing project on this motor. We're going to put on the timing components today, get the camshaft seals installed, and hopefully get to where we can start doing the valve lashing on this Subaru EJ253. So let's get to it. Alright guys, kind of how my parts washers work. We got a cardboard box which I've set up. Cost me about $1.50 at Walmart. Built it and then cut out this hole. It's sitting on top of another cardboard box with a drip collecting cardboard box there, and we're just using brake cleaner and some brushes to get these parts nice and clean. Alright, we've got the engine upside down. It's time to put our oil plate baffle in. Well, oil pan baffle. And that just sets right on in there like that. And the oil pickup tube. And that just sets right in there like that. And side note, we have replaced the O-ring like we're supposed to. And that just sets in there like that. Just like that. Now all the holes line up. Now if you're like me and you counted all your screws that you specifically put into a plastic baggie that says inside oil pan, and you find that you have 6 with a Phillips head, a hex, and a washer or a anti-rotation washer on there, and then you have 4 that don't have any washers and no Phillips head, you might be wondering why you have a total of 10 and you only have 6 holes on this thing and then 2 holes on this. Okay, now as I was saying before the battery rudely ran out on this Faux Pro, we've got the oil pickup tube and the oil pan baffle inside, and we have a quandary, and that is that there are only 6 of these, which makes sense because there's 6 holes for this. And then we have 4 of these, which means we've got 2 for that. But where do the other 2 go? I don't know. We'll find out later though, I'm sure. Alright, 6 bolts. Here we go. Okay, just as a side note here, there are spaces where the bolts can drop down into the engine, and we don't want that because then we have to rotate it and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Don't do what Johnny Don't did. Okay, looks like we've averted a catastrophe here. Okay, so don't do that. Don't drop the bolt down inside there. That would be bad. Alright, let's get that lined up real nice before we start turning it. We're dropping stuff down in the engine. There's a little bit of an interference there, which is probably why they also have the Phillips head. Last but not least, we've got this little guy right in here, and there's a little bit of a clearance issue, so we're just gonna tighten him up with a Phillips head. Alright, twist the bolt till it rounds it off, and then you know it's the right torque. And there we go. We have our oil pan baffle and our oil pickup tube. Now that just leaves 2 bolts that we don't know where they go. Here we are at the back of the motor, and we're going to install this solenoid. Got the nuts, bolts rather, brand new gasket, AVLS solenoid, and we just match it up. Now one thing that may confuse you is that we're looking at the back of the motor here. There's where your clutch and pressure plate flywheel is going to be at. This is the right hand side of the engine. Generally, when you talk about the engine's left and right hand side, you talk about it from a perspective of you're actually looking at the engine from the front. Well, this goes by driver side, passenger side. The right hand side is the passenger side. So you'll notice that your parts for your right hand side are going to have an R on them in some cases, and you might be inclined to go to the front of the engine and be looking at your right hand side, and that would be incorrect. So just to save you guys that confusion, right hand side means passenger side, and in general that's what it means anytime you're looking at parts on a car. We've got the right hand side camshaft seal, and we're going to go ahead and get a little bit of lube on it. Get that on the inside of that seal there. Make sure we maintain cleanliness on the camshaft itself and the oil seal on the inside. Now there is a little bit of gasket maker on the inside of this here, so I'm just going to make sure I get that off of there before we go and think it's sealed, and it's not. I don't want any oil leaks coming from there. Of course, the block is aluminum, and the screwdriver is probably Chinesium steel, but it'll still damage it. So I'm just very lightly going on it with this edge. Alright, and in the seal goes. Alright, and I'm just going to tap this in little by little. I'm using a PVC pipe just to be careful not to ding the seal up too bad. And there's a little bit of marking on it, but it looks like it's sitting about flush right now. I'm just going to give it a couple more love taps. I'll say that's in. Same thing on this side. Make sure the ultra gray is removed. And I've got a little bit better of an idea of how much force it actually takes to scratch the aluminum with the steel. So you can kind of go at this a little bit faster. You got a good little gob back there. Let's clean it out. All clean, mostly. Alright, got a little bit of oil goop in there. Moosh it around. On the outside edges of it. And on. Just curious how far I can get this in. Pushing on it with my fingers, not beating on it with a PVC. And that's about it. Now this is metal. I'm just going to be extra gentle. Can't get past these two. What I was using before. And that feels about flush. And we'll just give it a little bit of a scrub down. A little bit of gunk there. That's good enough for the girls I go out with. Line up our first bolt hole. We're going to go with this top one right there. Go. Go. So I'm just going to do this very gingerly, and this is probably too much pressure if I start cranking on it, so we're not going to do that and strip out the block. There would be no repairing it, and I would be a very sad boy. I'm just going in a start pattern here, snugging these guys down. Just the same amount of pressure on each one, and no budging. So that's an AVLS solenoid lockdown on there. We got our oil temperature sensor. Comes with a little copper washer. Goes right there. So we checked the torque value, and what we find is that gets 13.3 foot-pounds. So we're just going to do this nice and gingerly, and we're not going to give it a good wrench in because I don't want to break this thing off. Alright, and that's got to be about good. Nice and tight. Oil pressure cinder. Now, there are two threaded holes here which look very similar, and this will thread into both if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it'll cross thread into one of them, but it goes in this furthest over to the right hand side, and it gets torqued down to, oh, what is she, 12.5 foot-pounds. Now, you can see that this has already started getting hard. I can't even do it hand tight, do it with hand pressure. And so in comes the expandable wrench. Breaking something, we're going to just get her nice and snug. See, it says 12 foot-pounds, but I feel like I'm easily putting more pressure on it than that. But I know for a fact it's not cross-threading. It doesn't say to use oil on it, so we're just going to keep going nice and steady. Ooh, that's a bad sound. Well, if the aluminum is stripped out, it's past the point of no return anyway, so we're going to pretend that's just tight enough. Alright, so at this point I've already gone ahead and installed the oil control solenoid for the AVLS, AVCS, active valve lift or control system, and it was just simply putting these to approximately 7 foot-pounds and bolting this unit down with the new gasket. And then now I'm just going ahead and installing the AVLS oil pressure cinder. Now we've tightened down this oil pressure cinder and tightened down the crankshaft position sensor. You can see that our front left head's AVS solenoid and oil pressure cinder is in, and the right side AVS solenoid, pressure cinder, and temperature cinder are in. Here's a little front piece thingy that you bolt up to the front of the engine. I'll show where it goes in a minute, but you'll notice that it's got this black rim, and it's got a little sticky gasket here, this little decal style of gasket. I just peeled the white tape off of it, and we're just going to stick it on there like so. Perhaps I should have taken that black stuff off of the mount here, but it was on there pretty good, so that being the case, I didn't think it was going to hurt anything, and we're just following up. And I'm doing this through the camera, and it's pretty easy. If you've ever put stickers on a action figure or something, it's about like that. Millennium Falcon, Star Wars toys, whatever have you, Power Wheels, kitchen set, all that jazz. And this sits in real close proximity to other components, so I think they just have this on there as kind of like a vibration dampening. I don't know how much this thing actually moves around. There's that. The other one was all oil soaked and nasty, and since this piece comes with your gasket kit, go ahead and scrub this piece off and throw that on there. Looks nice and pretty. We're going to do the same thing to this and just put that right in that spot. Doing it like this here. Just go ahead and start it and push it on down in there. And it's a little bit oversized, so you'll see a little bit hang off there. Alright, that's that. Let's put it on. Alright, here we have the tensioner bracket. That is the timing belt tensioner. We'll be pushing this timing belt down towards the water pump here. And we've got 2 long screws, which go 1, 2, and 1 short screw, which goes right in there. Alright, there's our tensioner bracket. We're going to go ahead and put the torque wrench on it now. I've already got it set to a very, very precise 20 foot-pounds. There's a click. There's a click. There's a click. Now we're going to go ahead and put the backside timing cover on. It goes on just like this. It slides in here. And back little hooks kind of hook underneath that tensioner bracket we just installed. And it just screws in. We've got 3 screws here. Now this one was giving me a little bit of trouble. Wanting to cross thread. In fact, a little bit of thread pulled out on it. And if it breaks, it'll break on camera for everybody to see. And looking at it from the back side, it's not even close to being in yet. And it's starting to get snug. 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 Timing cover. Old water pump. Do I need it? Nah, junk it. We're putting this doodad back on. It goes right here. And so, without further ado, who feels like looking up the torque spec for that? And let's make sure to over torque this. Well, it's got to be good. As you can see, I've got this water pipe on. Well, just sitting on the block right now. There's two bolts here and there, and I don't know where they're at right now, but they'll turn up. I'm gonna go ahead and put this water pipe on. You see we have 4 bolt holes, and we're gonna go ahead and just gingerly set this part down, line it up, and drop the bolts in. The way the O-rings are is they're slightly oversized for the holes. I did buy Subaru genuine parts, but it looks like that's just the way they're made. So once you tighten this down, it looks like they crush down to make the seal, so we don't want to have to do that too many more times after this. We don't want any water leaks. And as with everything steel bolts going into an aluminum block, we're pretty much not going to put a whole lot of torque on these things. And I'm more or less going here.